Well, welcome back to another video. And since the last time we spoke, we've been pretty busy. We haven't got just one ramp, we bought 2 ramps. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be wondering, why have I bought not just this ramp, but this one as well? And well, tell you the truth, my hand was kind of forced. Now you see, whilst I have sold the removal company, or most parts of it anyway, I still have this warehouse that we're in now. And it's fair to say, it isn't cheap. You know, I could have obviously had a smaller unit, but I am contractually tied into this for another 2.5 years. So for me to make this warehouse work, I need to increase my output. I need to make sure we're working on more cars at one given time. Basically, just look at it from a business expensive to make it financially justifiable. I need to make sure I'm working on more cars. And well, I know having a ramp will obviously speed up my process per car as well. I'm not gonna have to get on my backside, get underneath cars anymore. I feel like we're gonna be able to churn cars out a lot quicker and probably do a better job as well. And so whilst my hand was forced to some extent, it's good news for the channel because ultimately it's gonna mean we're gonna get through a lot more cars. Well, it's actually having the ramp and getting the Aston on it has already helped me identify one issue. And well, it looks like a total mess down here because at the end of last week, I was basically having to pull out the lower controller. I had to move the car outside so these ramps could be installed. And I noticed when I parked up the DB11 that the wheel was sort of angled like this, which obviously isn't right. It's supposed to be straight like this. Now, I thought initially that might be the tie rod, which is bent and does need replacing, but we're going to get to that later in another video. But for this one, I wanted to show you guys that basically it's not a plain sailing process. You know, there are obviously downsides to me being inexperienced, and that is I'm going to make mistakes. And when I got it back in, angled like this, it sort of straightened up when it came in, but I got it on the ramp and I was able to jiggle the wheel around and sort of play it around. You shouldn't be able to do that. There shouldn't be any play. So I got it up on the ramp and it was near enough clear straight away what the issue was. And well, unfortunately, we had a boot tear quite badly, as you can see here. This is a close-up of it, and yeah, it's pretty bad. This proved to be a £475 mistake, which is of course frustrating, but every day is a school day for me at the moment. But in order to learn, I needed to understand what caused this. The spacer you can see on the control knuckle on the top, it's this sort of silver bit here, and that sort of controls the way the ball joint sits, and it doesn't sort of, well, basically stops it playing around. When you pop it in the top and then you get your bolt on the bottom, it secures it in and this goes flush eventually. And yeah, we don't have it for down here. So that's why it was playing around so much, because we haven't had the spacer fit. So that's a bit annoying. Well, you join me on a new day, and I've been doing a bit of digging, and it's not good news. I understand what the proper issue is now, and annoyingly it basically means we're going to have to pull the suspension back out again and refit it again properly. Having done some digging, I've basically determined, or I've been able to find out through the help of others as well, that these sort of spacers that I was referring to are supposed to be pressed into here, and even this one is actually supposed to be pressed in. It's not even supposed to be loose like that. It's supposed to be in the knuckle, and even on this steering rack, which if I show you, obviously it's bent and needs changing, but this should also be pressed into the knuckle. So when I thought the knuckle was good, it's actually not, so we have to replace the knuckle. So all this basically has to come back out and we'll start again. So yeah, here we go. Pray for Alex. So time to undo my hard work, starting with the brake caliper, which was just a case of removing 2 caliper bolts. It then slid off and I propped it up on a box for now so I wouldn't need to disconnect the brake lines. With that done, I removed the disc and knuckle from the car, and following 3 rounds of WD-40 and my torque wrench on the highest setting possible, I was able to free these 4 screws. Okay, well that's removed it now, and yeah, to be honest, it's seen better days. It's a bit more dirty than the other one. The other one we're getting off an Aston, it's only done 800 miles, so yeah, I mean obviously the inside looks impeccable, but the rest probably didn't need replacing. There's little bits that are sort of bent and damaged from here. So, you know, I guess it's not a bad thing redoing this because it just means I'm gonna be happy with the end job with doing it right.
As you can see, we are basically ready to go now. I've just sort of put this in place for now, the lower control arm, make sure I'm happy with it. This upper control arm here had the shiv or the spacer stuck to it, and for the life of me, I just couldn't get it off until I introduced the angle grinder. I basically just cut it away. So I got so fine, it just dropped back out.
But that honestly took the best part of 2 hours, probably more, just getting that piece off and trying to make sure I didn't damage the boot above it. Because obviously the angle grinder is pretty sharp. But we've managed it, so we can finally start putting the suspension together correctly.
I started off by fitting both bolts for the lower control arm, but I didn't torque them off to spec at this stage as they weren't under load. And with that done, I lowered the car back down, and that novelty is not wearing off anytime soon. After that, it was just a case of fitting the struts into position, which was quite a fiddly job, but with some care, I got there in the end. Once I got the bolts on the top to stop the strut falling back down, I tightened them off and secured the engine protective frame back to the strut mount as well. I then bolted the strut into the lower control arm, which you can't see as there's some big lump of a man in the way. Now on to fitting the new knuckle, and a quick point, I did swap the ABS sensor over from the old knuckle whilst it was off the car, as it was a far easier job this way. I then just had to screw the 4 bolts in and it was ready to go on the car.
Okay, it's on. I didn't film it. It's a bloody strenuous job, to be honest. Even with the forklift, it's probably a 2-man job, to be honest. But it's on there. It's all tightened down how it's supposed to. The boots are fitting. Very relieved now. Oh, I'm still catching my breath. That was exhausting. So anyway, brake caliper on now. And then, yeah, I guess with the link bar. And we've got a new track rod end coming tomorrow as well, so we'll get that fit as well. But yeah, it's basically there.
With the brake caliper back on as well, I then just had to fit the brake line bracket to the new knuckle before refitting the link bar and then the sway bar mounts.
Well, there we have it. It's all on, except for the tie rod end, of course, which, if I come a bit closer, you can see also has the shim on. So I've got a new one of these arriving tomorrow because I don't fancy trying to cut out another one of these without damaging the boot. So I've ordered another, and I'll probably still be able to sell this how it is anyway, so I won't lose any money on it. But anyway, you don't need to see me watch me do this. It's just a case of literally screwing it on and then obviously putting it into the steering rack, which, as you can see, we can't do at the minute because this has got the shim on, and well, this knuckle already has one pressed in, so that's why it won't go in, and that's why this needed replacing. But you can assume safely by the time you're watching this, this has been fit. It's now officially ready for the paint shop. Sorry if I said that last time. I thought I was, but yeah, I guess that's my naivety. And so with this Aston now off to the paint shop on Monday, and I guess a bit of a hiatus until we see that come back. Of course, that means we can now move on to the Cosworth, which hasn't featured on the channel since our first video. It's kind of been neglected a little bit more because I've been leaving it over the winter period because, well, you can't sell it around this time of year. No one's going to buy a classic with no traction control in peak winter. So I've been focusing on other cars, but the plan is, whilst this is in paint, we're going to be working on this car and getting this one ready. Now, there are a few things that we need to do. There are a few things I already have done, which I will cover in the next episode. But for now, anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Getting close to 1,000, which is so exciting. Anyway, thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.